Welcome to our series where we shine a light on personal finances across the globe. We've reached out to people from all over the world to see where their money goes, what they're proud of, what they need to work on. This episode brings us to sunny Australia, where a Brisbane family has a great income, but it's not stretching as far as they'd like. $190,000 before tax sounds like a very comfortable income. The kind of number that feels like it should make life easier. But despite earning well above average, this Aussie couple is sinking rather than swimming. With a toddler and dreams of more kids and a wedding, it seems like their dreams are getting further away from them by the day. By the end of each week, the money feels tight, and there's nothing left to save or put away for a rainy day. He reckons he should still be allowed his time at the pub, but she would like their money to go towards more long-term goals and travel. So today, we're taking a calm, curious look at where their money is actually going. Kylie and Daniel are a couple in their mid-30s living in Brisbane, Australia, with one young child. They're not married yet, but it's something they'd like to do in the future. Life at the moment is full of work, childcare drop-offs, routines, and the constant mental juggling that comes with raising a family. At the end of the week, when they go over their budget, they often find they've spent the little amount they attempted to put into savings, and the cycle continues each week, relying on credit cards and buy now pay later for gifts and other expenses that crop up. Kylie works as an admin officer at a law firm, earning $90,000 a year. Daniel is a builder, bringing in roughly $100,000. Both jobs are steady. Both incomes are reliable. Their lifestyle isn't flashy, but it is busy and convenience-driven, which is pretty common at this stage of life. They rent their home for $750 a week in East Brisbane. Kylie spends $5 a week on public transport and Daniel around $80 on fuel, give or take. Their other large expense other than rent is daycare, coming in at a whopping $700 a week. These expenses plus lifestyle creep, eating out and weekly trips to the pub have meant their finances have taken a big hit despite the high income bracket. Combined, their gross household income comes to about $190,000 per year before tax. After tax, that works out to roughly $2,785 landing in their account each week. That's the money they actually see. The money they can spend. When you hear that weekly number, it feels like there should be room to breathe. Maybe room to save, plan a wedding, or build a bit of a buffer. But once the regular expenses start coming out, that feeling fades faster than expected. Let's walk through where the money goes. Their rent is $750 per week. For Brisbane, especially for a family rental, that's not unusual right now. But it's still a large fixed cost that comes out before anything else. Groceries cost about $300 per week. That's fairly typical for two adults and a child, particularly with rising food prices. Eating out and takeaway adds another $150 a week. This isn't constant dining or anything extravagant. It's the occasional takeaway, a busy night, or a weekend meal where cooking just doesn't happen. Transport is relatively modest. About $80 a week on fuel, and around $5 on public transport. Nothing excessive there. Brisbane offers a 50-cent train fare that Kylie snaps up each day. Utilities average $125 per week. Power, water, internet, phones. All the essentials that quietly tick along in the background. Subscriptions come to around $45 a week. Streaming services, apps, and digital extras. Individually small, but together they still take up space in the budget. They have a car repayment of $115 per week. A fixed commitment that's manageable, but non-negotiable. Daycare is one of the biggest costs. $750 per week for one child. It's essential for them to work, and it rivals their rent as their largest expense. There's also discretionary spending. Around $150 a week on general fund money. Small purchases, bits and pieces, things that make life feel a little easier or more enjoyable. They do have some savings. About $2,000 set aside for emergencies or travel. It's something, but given their income and responsibilities, it doesn't feel like much of a safety net. And then there's one expense that stands out among the others. Around $200 per week is spent at the pub or on gambling. It's not framed as a major issue. It's just part of their routine. A way to unwind, socialize, or switch off after a long week. When you step back and look at the full picture, there isn't a single dramatic problem. No luxury cars. No huge splurges. No obvious financial mistakes. What's really happening here is a combination of high fixed costs and small, regular habits quietly adding up. Rent and childcare alone take a significant portion of their income before the week even begins. After that, the spending is mostly about convenience and comfort. Takeaway instead of cooking. A drink at the pub. A few subscriptions that don't feel urgent enough to cancel. None of these things feel big on their own. But together, they narrow the gap between earning a good income and actually feeling financially secure. They're not irresponsible. They're just busy. And when life is busy, money often runs on autopilot. The biggest changes for this couple wouldn't need to be extreme. If the pub and gambling spend dropped by even half, that's about $100 a week. Over a year, that adds up to more than $5,000, but Daniel mentions that it's his little thing that he does with his mates that he enjoys. He doesn't want to give it up, and occasionally he does win some back, so it's not all loss. Reducing takeaway spending by just $50 a week would save another $2,500 over 12 months, but it's hard to meal prep and do groceries for two working busy parents on top of everything else. Those two small adjustments alone could turn their current savings into a much more comfortable buffer. Or start a proper wedding fund without needing to find extra income. Nothing drastic. Just small shifts that repeat over time. The bigger takeaway here isn't about cutting everything back or living without enjoyment. It's about awareness. A high income doesn't automatically translate into financial ease. And feeling stretched doesn't always mean someone is doing something wrong. Often, it simply means money is being spent without a clear picture of the trade-offs. When spending lines up with what matters most, money tends to feel lighter. When it doesn't, even strong incomes can feel tight. So looking at this couple's situation, which expense stood out to you the most? The cheeky weekly pub trip? If this were your household, what would you change first, if anything at all? Would you prioritize a house deposit or a wedding? Join us next time where we dive into the finances of a bachelor in Dubai who works hard but plays harder. From luxury cars to exclusive gym memberships, is he being smart or blowing it all? Find out in the next episode.